Hey, everybody, I hope you're doing well today. Well, let's take a look at the theory of the firm, the introduction and overview video. And in this video, I am going to lay out the general course of study of your studies through IB Economics, studies of the theory of the firm. Let's take a look. All right, the big picture. First of all, it's very, very important for you to realize what you're studying. Are in the middle of studying microeconomics. Theory of the firm is like microeconomics, right? Microeconomics looks at the behavior of consumers like me and you walking into a store and deciding whether or not to buy something. And then based on that, the supplier will decide whether or not they want to sell it and maybe what the price should be. That is microeconomics. Okay. Theory of the firm, first of all, it's a theory. But all of the things you're studying in economics and IB economics are theory. Every chapter of every textbook is a theory. Theory of law and demand, law and supply, theory of law of demand and supply, theory of government intervention, theory of market failure. All of these chapters that you're looking at are theory. So theory of the firm is saying, like, in theory, this is how firms would decide what the price is of their particular product. It's micro. So I use the analogy in class of like the high school cafeteria at my international school here in Santiago, Chile, and they sell quinoa salads. And quinoa salads at this particular cafeteria, I think, are overpriced. Right? They're roughly about $5 a salad. Now, microeconomics would look at me making a decision of whether or not to buy that salad, and the firm deciding whether or not they want to sell it, first of all, and second of all, what the price would be. But theory of the firm would say, hey, let's go into the meeting. Let's go in and look and sort of like listen into the meeting, in theory, that would take place inside the cafeteria with the executives of that business to decide what the perfect price would be for that salad. And it would be based on things like their costs, their prospective revenue, because all firms want to make money. They all want to make profit. Okay, so theory of the firm is going to take a look at what would happen if you had a bunch of economists running a business in the cafeteria and how they would come up with the price of $5 a salad for the $5 for the quinoa salad and why, and how they would maximize their profits as a result. Because remember, profits are what remains after you cover your costs. Profits come from the revenues after you cover your costs. Okay, so the big picture here, Jocelyn Blink has a nice quote. It says, we look at the different types of behavior of firms in relation to the markets in which they operate and the nature of competition in different markets. Okay, so this unit of the IB course syllabus is set up with section 1, which is production, cost, revenue, and profit. And what I want you to think about this first is it's the first chapter you're going to face in your course companion, and it is going to set up a model. And then we are going to take that model and apply it to 1, 2, 3, 4 market structures. Perfect competition, monopoly, monopolistic competition, and oligopoly. Okay? So the first 5, 6, 7, 8 lessons of theory of the firm are essential for you to understand how, in theory, firms would make a decision based on their cost, revenue, and profit of what the price of their quinoa salad will be. Okay? And this is critical that you understand this, then we would look at how that cafeteria, that firm, would behave in a market structure of perfect competition, in a market structure of monopoly, in a market structure of monopolistic competition, in a market structure of an oligopoly. So check it, 1, 2. These things here are critical for your success in the next 4 sections of your studies. Okay, and here's the underlying reason why this would be true. Look at my friends. Economics is philosophy, man. It's more philosophy than it is science. What existed first was human behavior, and then psychologists or philosophers, more like Adam Smith being one of them, looked at this human behavior and said, hey, can we generalize this? Can we take this behavior and graph it? And that's where economics came from. So our human behavior, in terms of economics, is graphable because we all tend to behave a similar way. Okay, so if there's this theory of cost, revenue, profit, this meeting going on inside the cafeteria, then how would those humans behave in these different markets? Well, you know right away that if you are starting a business and you know that you are the only one providing this good, and you know it's wanted, you could charge whatever price you wanted. And so your behavior, you know this to be true, admit it, you know that your behavior would be different if you were the only firm operating and providing this one good, right? If you were the only supplier of something, then you would probably try to charge as much of the highest price you possibly could in order to still sell some goods, but make the highest profit. So, but that's how you can understand monopoly. But perfect competition, and we'll look at market structures in a second, but perfect competition is where you're price takers. The best example of perfect competition, which is theoretical in itself, is a foreign exchange desk. And if you're an international student, you know, like you're trying to change whatever currency you live in with dollars or euros or some sort of major currency, or even if you travel, perfect competition is where the price is made outside the market, outside the firm. Firms are price takers. What does that mean? Well, it's like an exchange rate that comes about, I know I live in Chile, so it's the difference between the peso and the dollar. What's the exchange rate between the peso and dollar? Well, if I have a foreign exchange desk, right, I need to take the price from the foreign currency markets and offer that price for the dollars, or that price for the pesos, or that price for whatever currency I'm trying to sell. So if this same firm, the high school cafeteria, worked in a market structure of perfect competition, they would have to take the price. They couldn't set on a price of $5. They'd have to look at the international market for what the international market price is for quinoa salads. And then they have to sell that. Otherwise, they wouldn't sell anything. Because you know for sure, if you're looking to exchange your dollars or whatever currency you're working into another currency, and you see one that's a worse rate, you're not going to that kiosk. And that's why all foreign currency exchange desks have the same exact, more or less, same exact price for whatever currency they're trying to sell. Okay? And the other two market structures are monopolistic competition. That's basically when you have a unique product, but you operate in a competitive market. So if you come up with a new idea, like you're in a small town, maybe in any country in the world, and they don't have sushi, well, if you come in and you open up a sushi restaurant, you have a monopoly. You're the only sushi restaurant. You have a monopoly, and you could have, you could set the price because no one else is selling monopoly. But you're not working with no one else is selling sushi. But you're not working in a sushi market. The structure you're working in is the dining market, the going out to dinner market. So if you price your sushi too high, you're not going to have anyone go to your restaurant. So you got to price your sushi relative to what it would cost for like a pasta dinner at a good Italian restaurant, or maybe like a nice enchilada at a nice Mexican restaurant, or a steak at a nice steakhouse, right? So monopolistic competition is a unique product, but in a different market. And oligopoly is when there are a few small firms that can work together. Airline businesses are a good example of this. Car manufacturers are a good example of this, where they could work together as small firms, high barrier of entry, and they operate a different way. The point of this is not to talk about the market structures. The point of this is to say, the people that work in the high school cafeteria are figuring out their cost, revenue, and profit, but the way they behave is going to be dictated by the market that they work in. And you can understand this very easily, because we are all who we are, but we operate different in the structures that we operate. When you're a student, you operate one way. When you're a son or daughter, you probably operate another way. When you are a friend, you operate another way. When you're a grandchild, you operate another way. So within the structures, we behave differently, but we're still ourselves. And that is the whole big picture here of theory of the firm, okay? And I think, this whole human behavior thing gets really lost on IB students. You got to think about, these are people, man. They make decisions that you and I would make. And if you're an IB student, hey, my friend, your mind is flexible and mature enough to be able to understand how to make decisions. And the people that are running businesses, are you are as equally capable as people running businesses in terms of like understanding logic, understanding the behavior behind it. So don't make it too complicated. Okay. Then the last thing for market theory of the firm, is price discrimination. And this is a very simple idea where basically perfect price discrimination would be where suppliers would know exactly how much our willingness and ability to pay for a good is before we walk up to it. So imagine if you're at like some artisan fair, and you walk up and you see a painting that you love, and because you love it so much, there's like $20 that like comes up on the billboard on your forehead, right? And you walk up there, and the person who's selling it knows that you want $20. Well, they're going to say, hey, or you would be willing and able to pay $20, so they charge you $20. But then some kid walks up and they see it, and they're like, oh, that's kind of cool. I'd pay $3 for that. And as long as the supplier could make some money, they would sell it to that person for $3. So it's perfect price discrimination means that they actually know exactly how much we are willing and able to pay, and they charge us for that price, which swallows up, if you think back to our other studies, it swallows up all of the consumer surplus. But also, and in general, when you see price discrimination, it's thought of a little bit differently, and this is when you go to the movies, and the adults are paying one price, $8, and the kids are paying $4. But guess what? They both occupy a seat. So why are they discriminating? Why are they making, the adult pay $8 and the kid pay $4? Because they know that the willingness and ability of a kid to pay for a movie ticket is less, right, than the willingness and ability of an adult. So they charge $4 there and $8 there. Another example of price discrimination is like you buy things in bulk. So you go to a store and like in the United States, like Sam's Club or these big like places like a warehouse, a big bodega where you can go and buy a bunch of stuff. And if you buy a bunch of them, you get it cheaper, right? So per roll of toilet paper, the 20 pack, right, is cheaper than the 4 pack per roll of toilet paper or whatever product it might be, granola bars or, I don't know, juice boxes for lunch. Okay? There are other types of price discrimination, but you basically get the idea that the suppliers are charging the price that's most reflective of the person's willingness and ability to buy it. All right? Cool, my friends. Well, that is the introductory video to Theory of the Firm. Smile, you're there, you can do this, right? And you're going to see as you go through this video series that Theory of the Firm is not really as complicated as everyone's made it out to be. All right, everybody. I hope you're doing well. I hope you found this video to be helpful, and we'll talk to you in a bit.